Pianist Roberto Prosseda joins me on Classical Conversations. He is an expert in the music of Mozart and Mendelssohn, having recorded the complete piano works of both composers. Nowadays, he's also turned his attention towards Beethoven's Piano Sonatas Opus 2, and that's the project that brings us together for today's chat. Thank you so much for being here, Roberto.
Thank you.
So we're entering the wide world of Beethoven. What has been your experience of Beethoven's piano works across the course of your career, and what pulled you in that direction recently?
Yeah, I just turned 50. So, of course, as every other pianist, Beethoven has accompanied me for many years. I started playing the first Beethoven piece when I was 6. So, 44 years with Beethoven. But I never dared to record any Beethoven sonatas for a public recording until last year. Of course, the reason is easy to find. There are more than 400 recordings of each Beethoven sonatas. More than 400. I think it's the most recorded repertoire of piano works. I'm always interested in rare piano music. I researched a lot. I found several unknown pieces by Mendelssohn, by Gounod, by other composers. On the other side, the mainstream repertoire for me is interesting only when I can say something interesting, something new, something which is not already there. And for Beethoven, it is hard. But actually, when Decca proposed to record Mozart sonatas, first I said no, because I had nothing interesting to add to the great recordings. But then I researched a lot. I went into historical performance practice, historical, treatises. I went into historical piano recordings. And actually, I found a different perspective, different points of view, which I could offer in recording Mozart sonatas. So when I finished Mozart, I guessed, and now what can I do to, because I got interested, I got enthusiastic in discovering new ways of performing classical piano pieces, which everybody already knows and heard. And of course, naturally, when you finish Mozart, you think of Beethoven first sonatas because they come from the same context in a way. And by the way, Beethoven was a student of Salieri and Haydn, and so of course he breathed the same air, and you can feel a lot of Haydn and even Mozart in the Opus 2 sonatas by Beethoven, which were composed in 1795 when he just finished studying with Haydn. So it was quite natural to consider to record Beethoven sonatas, but then I guess, okay, but what can you really say, which is not already said and on records? And of course, I went more into historical instruments. And by the way, this is my recording studio, sorry, in Tuscany, near Florence, where I live. And the Graf piano, which you can see in the background, is exactly the piano where I decided to record those Opus 2 sonatas by Beethoven. But I have this piano here since already 2 years now. So I've been practicing a lot on this piano and discovering many details of phrasing, of colors, of pronunciation of each phrase, which would be impossible to achieve on a modern piano, which I, of course, still play. I mean, I'm still mostly give concerts on modern pianos, but in the last 2 years, I've been working a lot on this particular piano. So finally, I said, maybe I should record Beethoven on a forte piano. And then I went around. I went to Netherlands, to Germany, to Belgium, and of course throughout Italy. And I tried many different models of forte pianos, both original instruments and also copies. When you speak about 1795 instrument, it's very hard to find an original one which is playable, unless it has been completely restored with new pieces. So it's not original anymore. Of course, so I went through many very good copies, modern copies of those instruments, of Anton Walter's piano or Stein or similar ones. But when I tried the original, like this graph, I said, no, this is another story. You cannot compare. So finally, I realized that the piano I had in my studio was the best for me, at least, to record those sonatas, even if this graph original piano is from 1820, so 25 years later than when sonatas opus 2 were composed. But still, Beethoven had exactly this kind of model when he was older, and he loved it. And so I guess if Beethoven had this piano in 1820 or 25, he would not refuse it to use it for Beethoven Opus 2 sonatas, even if they were composed on a different instrument. So on the other side, the modern piano is completely another instrument. So you cannot really have any similar effect of staccato with a little bit of resonance, of pronunciation, of clear bass register on a new Steinway or Yamaha. That's why I said, okay, I think this is the piano which gives me more inspiration, where I can express a new idea of performing this business. And by the way, I was already studying the Opus 2 sonatas on this instrument, so I already knew what they are through this instrument. So I didn't need any more time to get used to a different instrument. When you record on historical instruments, you have this problem. If you don't live there, if the instrument is not your own one, you don't have enough time to get used. And every instrument is completely different, so has a different action, different sound, works in a different way, and you have no time to get used. I mean, you have maybe 3-4 days, and then you record. I had already 2 years, so this makes a great difference for me. So I don't say that this piano is the ideal piano for Beethoven sonatas, but I say that for me, because I already was playing on this piano and I relearned, let's say, those sonatas because I studied them on that piano. I already knew what I wanted, and the piano already knew me. And so we went with this piano, and I was very happy about the result.
So appreciate the great degree of intentionality that went into the choice of instrument. I wondered if you could elaborate a little bit more on the difference in feel between the graph piano that you have and a modern piano in terms of the mechanics and the timbre and how it affected your overall performance to give it that little bit of a different perspective than what we've heard before.
Yeah. Well, the more evident difference is just the size of the keys, they are narrower, and of course the key depth is maybe 1/3. The modern piano has about 10 millimeters depth when you press a key. Here we have maybe 3 millimeters or maximum 4. And of course the materials are completely different. There is no metal. And on the other side, there is even the hammers are not of felt, but of real leather. So the leather is more consistent and is a bit more rigid, so it's harder. So even when you play really smooth with your hand, which you need to do, by the way, on the fortepiano, even more, the sound is still very focused. So even if you play legato, every note speaks by itself, which is good. It's not a problem. It's a problem if you want to achieve a romantic legato, where every note melts in the other ones. But on Beethoven early sonatas, you need this clarity, this transparency. It's never it's ta 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 ta. And even in the legato, in the cantabile melodies of the adagios, for example, you need that every little small note speaks and says something interesting, something special. It's never ta pa pa ra da ta 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 ta. On the other side, many modern pianists who didn't try the fortepianos on a regular basis are convinced that you cannot control the dynamics on a fortepiano with the same precision that you can get on a modern piano. But this is not true. Of course, the way you control is different. If you play a fortepiano with the same technique that you apply on a modern piano, of course, it's not going to work. It will be everything too loud. You need to work on your micro sensitivity or micro movements, rather playing like this, It's much better to use the flexibility of your fingers and also to use the softest part, not the tip, but also the flat part of the fingertip to achieve a better control, because everything happens in 3 millimeters, not in 10. So everything must be micro controlled in a better way, which is a great school, by the way, even when you go back to the modern piano, because you feel at home also in microdynamic control, which usually you don't look for. And of course, the way of phrasing is different. Also, the agogics, the way of using the tempo flexibility, because of course you have less duration of each note. The length of each sound is not so long as it happens in a modern piano, where one single note could stay for 40 seconds. On a forte piano, after 10 seconds, the sound is already gone, which is not just a limitation. I think it's a great opportunity, because it means that you have to do more things during those 10 seconds. And you can play with what happens during the resonance in order to reconnect the sound with the next one. And sometimes you have to use more flexibility in agogics, so kind of rubato, which you don't need maybe on a modern piano, because you can play more with the resonances. On the other side, I think the rhetorical tools that we can use by applying a special rubato according to the special mood that we want to achieve in each phrase is something which makes this music even more intense and dramatic, which is, of course, what I try to do when I play on the fortepiano.
I never really had considered the elevated sensitivity aspect from the difference in the key depth even. Because of that, did you approach the dissonances or moments of tension within the sonatas a little bit differently than you would on a modern piano?
Yeah, there's no way to avoid, and this is the great advantage of playing an historical instrument, because everything which is interesting in that music comes out naturally. You don't have to look for. If there is a dissonant chord, all the dissonances are already there. You cannot hide them. And of course, because you hear them, you react. And by reacting, you make music more interesting. On the other side, on a new instrument, a new piano, you can play a dissonant chord, especially in the lower register, and every note melts down with the other one. So you hear kind of noise, but it's not clear. Is it a seventh chord? Is it a ninth chord? What's happening between those notes? You don't know. It's something all mixed. Unless you don't really do something special with your fingers to, put out one special interval, one special note out of the chord. While on the fortepiano, every key speaks by itself, every dissonance comes out by itself, and you can just enjoy it and, of course, react to that. So the piano helps you in getting more tuned with the music, and always in a natural way. You cannot be wrong. And if you try to do something wrong with the music, the piano does not allow you to do it in a way, because brings you back in the right path.
I suppose another interesting factor in the interest of dissonance is the tuning system itself, which is not the equal temperament that we might find, on a modern piano.
Yes, exactly. Of course, this is quite interesting. Thank you for this question. I'm very happy about talking of historical tunings, because even many colleagues of mine who regularly play on historical keyboards, they don't care about the tuning. So they care a lot about the phrasing, the original edition, the manuscripts, but then they play with modern tuning. And the tuning affects the quality of sound much more than you can imagine. So the same piano with a different tuning sounds much older or much newer. And equal temperament tuning, which is the standard modern tuning, it's not the ideal one for this kind of music, for early Beethoven or for Mozart. Equal temperament has a practical advantage that you can tune with an electronical tuner, so everybody can do it. But on the other side, it's like genetically modified food, So it's not natural. You have intervals, fifths, fourths, which are not the ones in nature. They are artificial. They are kind of, fabricated in a way to make every chord sounding nice, but all the same. So C major sounds like B flat major in terms of, relationships with the single notes and of colors. On the other side, Mozart didn't have this tuning because they didn't have electronic tuner to do it. It's when you tune by ear, it's very hard to do exactly this equal temperament tuning. On the other side, there were many different ways to adjust to temperate, to adjust the tuning in order to be able to play any key on the keyboard, even the unusual keys like F sharp major or A flat major, but they still sounded very strange. Actually, Beethoven and even Mozart, when they go to these keys like, for example, B flat or even A flat, they do it because it sounds strange. It should sound strange to us as well. Otherwise, we don't get the sense of getting there. Today, on the other side, every key sounds the same. So it doesn't matter if you modulate from C major to F sharp major. It just sounds higher or lower. But of same thing, Swift higher or lower. On an historical tuning, it sounds that you are moving from one mood to another mood. So every key is a different mood, is a different way of feeling. So you get a kind of geography of moods because of the geography of different keys when each key sounds different because of the tuning.
I'm going to remember that phrase, geography of moods. I think that's a really wonderful way to state it. Since we have the benefit of meeting with you online via Zoom today, wonder if you could take us for a little tour around your studio where the recording magic happened.
Yeah. By the way, this is a recording studio, so we are actually now recording another disc, not with me playing. I'm actually the producer in this kind of production of a student of mine who is recording Bartok piano works. So you can see here, you can see already some, you see, you have some equipment. And here we have, this is my audio system where I can hear. By the way, it's an American tube amplifier, audio research, with the Italian homemade speakers by Ars Aures from Sicily. And here we have our graph instrument. I can even play some notes, but of course, the quality of Zoom is never good. But if you want, I can try.
Sure, why not? We'd love to.
You see, and I can actually easily show how you can play even pianissimo here. Crescendo, diminuendo, still playing pianissimo. And then when I say about dissonances, I can really feel what's happening in there. You see, every note sounds. And even when you play staccato, you have this kind of resonance, see? It sounds around. So this gives a kind of natural feeling, natural phrasing. And this is a modern piano, as a Yamaha S6, where we are now recording Bartok, which of course sounds completely different. You see, if I play a dissonance chord here, you don't feel everything. The same thing here. You see, it's much more scary. This is what I mean.
It is. And I'm also noticing the kind of different, it looks like the Graf Forte piano is a little smaller and more angular and like narrow, as you had mentioned. So kind of different in terms of the physical shaping of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the key is restricted, the F. This is the top key. That's why when Beethoven in F minor sonata, opus 2 number 1, reaches this key, it's just the edge of the limit. Couldn't go further. You feel this, I want to go to the limit, you know? Same here. You know, the last note of the last movement of the Opus 2 number 1 sonata is this note. It's just definitive. I cannot go, you know, lower than that. So when you play this piece on this piano, you understand that he couldn't go more than that. He was extreme already. But the same key here is this one. You see, I have one more octave. It doesn't sound so extreme.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about your Beethoven sonatas recordings, the process, or anything otherwise?
I should say that I'm very happy about the sound. Also, our sound engineer, Andrea Dandolo, made a great job. Also, because if you hear this sound, if you listen to the recorded sound and you compare with the recorded sound of other forte pianos, you will notice many differences. You know, this is a warm sound. This studio is not a big church, but he found a way to put the microphones and to create a special, you know, mix of the different microphones in a way that the sound is very natural, and on the other side, full of colors and deep. Is not a superficial sound. Something. So I think he got the best out of the instrument. So I'm very happy about the sonic result as well, which of course is a great help for expressing my musical ideas through the recording.
Do you see yourself continuing within the catalog of Beethoven, or what are some of your next pursuits?
Well, yes, this is not announced yet, but I'm doing it today only for you and your listeners. I am preparing for Challenge Classics, the same level, because they were happy about the results. A second album with the 3 sonatas opus 10, which I will record in the next months. So stay tuned for that. On the other side, I'm still playing on, of course, and recording on modern pianos. And I just recorded Bizet complete piano works, George Bizet piano works, for Hyperion label, which is going to be out at the end of the year, as well as I'm preparing another recording of Castelnuovo Tedesco unpublished piano works, the greeting cards for piano, which I premiered last month in my US tour in Washington and Los Angeles. And now I'm going to record them. So I still, you know, continue, of course, recording both on historical pianos and modern pianos as well.
Thank you for the sneak preview. We certainly will stay tuned. And I also appreciate you taking some time to share your thoughts on the Beethoven Sonatas Opus 2, your artistic approach, and conversation on the Graf Forte piano. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you, Roberto.
It was a great pleasure for me as well, and look forward to the next meeting with you.